What if China votes Trump? A trade and technology war coupled with a daily diplomatic struggle. Despite a disastrous first mandate from Trump for China, the Asian giant could welcome a re-election of the American president, banking on an irreversible decline of its great strategic rival. Officially, Beijing has no preference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, but some commentators are banking on the incumbent president to weaken his country and the West, in turn accelerating China's hope for rise to the rank of the world's leading power. The Chinese hope that you will be re-elected, because you make America eccentric and therefore hated in the whole world. Launched in May on Twitter, the editor of the nationalist daily newspaper Global Times, Hu Zijin, addressing the American president. You are strengthening the unity of China. Bilateral relations have fallen under Donald Trump to the lowest since the establishment of diplomatic relations in 1979. In a Cold War atmosphere, Washington closed a Chinese consulate on its soil at the end of July, while Beijing returned the favor for a few days later. Weaken NATO. But Qin Gang, deputy foreign minister, assures him, "We don't care who is in the White House. What we want is a calm and better relationship with the United States." While recalling Thursday in front of European journalists, Sino-American relations were also problematic with the Democrats on many subjects. The Republican president has made China one of the targets of his campaign and enraged its leaders by calling it the Chinese virus over the novel coronavirus. Diplomatically, Donald Trump is uncontrollable and elusive for Beijing, observed sinologist Philippe Lacour, of Harvard Kennedy School in the United States. But the interest of a re-election of Trump is in the almost automatic pursuit of his policy America First, which partly cuts Washington off from its traditional allies, he explained to AFP. It is obviously consistent to imagine that the Chinese elites rejoice in the weakening of the United States, which is the big rival. And the latter are rubbing their hands in front of the Western divisions. One of Beijing's strategic objectives is to weaken the Atlantic Alliance, which was adrift under the Trump administration, notes Teresa Fallon, who heads the Center for Russia-Europe-Asia Studies in Brussels, CREAS. Champion of multilateralism. As soon as Donald Trump came to power in January 2017, his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, sought to project the image of a responsible leader, advocating in Davos for free trade, to the applause of the business community distraught by the protectionism of the American president. More recently, China's #1 has drawn compliments for announcing that his country, the planet's biggest polluter, will start reducing its CO2 emissions by 2030, in contrast to Washington's denunciation of the Paris Agreement. And as Donald Trump announced the U.S. withdrawal from the World Health Organization, WHO, Xi Jinping vowed to make a possible Chinese vaccine against COVID-19 a global public good. But ultimately, the relationship could improve if the pandemic is quickly brought under control in the United States and China buys more American products, as it committed to at the start of the year, predicts political scientist Zhu Thik, from Bucknell University in the United States. From this perspective, it is not inconceivable that Trump and Xi rekindle their friendship. Biden and human rights. Not to mention that the communist regime has little to wait for Joe Biden to enter the White House. Biden will inherit the tariffs and I doubt he will lift them unilaterally, observes Bonnie Glazer of the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. Beijing will probably have to give in to other American demands if it wants the lifting of these surcharges imposed by Donald Trump on imported Chinese products, she said. And on the technology front, whoever wins, the United States will not reverse its decision to exclude Huawei equipment from its networks from mobile internet, she told AFP. Washington accuses the Chinese telecoms giant of potential espionage. Perhaps most embarrassing for Beijing, Democrats are usually tougher than Republicans on human rights issues. The former vice president may also increase the pressure over Hong Kong's takeover. Biden would be bad news for Beijing because he would very quickly favor a coalition of countries that are on the same wavelength with China, predicts Philippe Lacour.